Last week I closed all three rings for the first time.
Congratulations.
Yay for me.
I was thinking about it the other day. Do you ever get a notification and you think, what's that fucker done today?
I know when I see ones when you're rowing, and I see ones where you do an outdoor walk, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. It's like you do a fair amount of outdoor walking, and I was like, there's one where I saw, I think Sunday or Saturday, I don't know when they send it, but you'd closed all three rings 7 days in a row.
Yeah, that was. I think Sunday counts the end of the week. Yeah, because Monday morning is when you can, if you're looking at the watch, you get the weekly summary Monday morning. So Sunday would have been when it sends it.
How often do you use night mode?
I have not used it legitimately yet, but I haven't been outside taking photos at night either, which was my primary thought from when I would use it.
How much have you used night mode? Like, hey, I'm going to use night mode. Not that you actually need it, but I want to use it.
Only a couple of times. It's more often that I accidentally flip it on just because of moving the...
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'll look down and it'll be on night mode, and oh, okay. No big deal. I'll leave it for a while.
Okay, so that's what we're doing now.
Yeah.
That reminds me of one of my favorite lines from that 70s show. I can't even remember what Kitty says to Red, but it's something like, you know how sometimes a woman will say something to you and it feels like no matter what you answer, it's going to be the wrong answer, and it feels like a trap. And so his response was, oh, so that's what we're going to fight about today.
Yeah, I knew where you were going with the response, but it's always fun to listen.
Yeah. So I was catching up on our show, and I think I'm 1.5 episodes behind, and 3 episodes ago, I was talking about Bel Air. The second season is going to drop later this month. Saw a trailer for it last week, and I don't know if this is worthy of going in the show or not, but I thought I'd tell you. But it looks like they're going to have the scene from, there's this iconic scene where Carlton and Will get pulled over by the police in, I think, Palm Springs, and they get pulled over for being black men driving a nice car. You know which one I'm talking about?
I do.
It looks like they're going to have that's one of the things they're going to portray in season 2.
Interesting. I started to watch it, and then as I was scrolling through, like I don't remember what I was doing. I was looking through some of their stuff just to get a feel for what all was there, and I was going to watch Bel Air first, and then ended up starting. Have you seen Vampire Academy?
No.
All right, so it's apparently a Peacock original. And I don't know why I'm a sucker for vampire stories in general. I always, even if they're horrible, I want to know something about it.
We got to talk about this this has got to make the show because we got to talk about this.
That's Keep fine. Going. I can start it with the Bel Air conversation.
Okay.
And so last week, when I sat down to row, I started Vampire Academy instead. So I will eventually get to Bel Air, but it's just hilarious that, like, as I was going through and creating the watch list is what I was doing, trying to get, all right, let's get 3 or 4 things there so that, because when I'm rowing, it's a lot tougher to stop the momentum and fiddle with UI.
Oh, that makes
it's a lot easier to at least have something queued in the watch list so that I only have a tap or two so that I can kind of keep, momentum going. And so, yeah, I started Vampire Academy. And the first episode was interesting enough to make me curious where they were going with it. And then there's some British accents and a willingness to use fuck quite a bit. So it was like, yeah, let's see what the next episode's like. Now I'm 4 or 5 in.
Oh, nice. I'll have to check that out upon your recommendation. I was going to say that was one of the things I liked about Bel Air. Like, it's full on, TVMA language. They drop the F-bomb quite often. The whole reason I'm going to come back to the vampires, but the whole reason that I brought this up is because I was also mentioning that in that episode I mentioned that I saw the trailer for that '90s show, and because of all the traveling I've done, I also watched the first season of that '90s show because it's 10 episodes, 20 minutes each, so it's not a big lift. And I was gonna say also I have had the shortest layover I had. Every flight I took was 2 legs, and the shortest layover I had was like 2 hours 10 minutes. The longest I think was 3-hour layover. Anyway, I watched that '90s show, and it's not as good as the best seasons of that '70s show, but it's a lot better than the worst seasons of that '70s show. And so I'd give it it's a solid show. I'd recommend it. It had a number of funny moments. My biggest critique of the show is just that this is a common pitfall that most American sitcoms fall into, and is that as a show goes on for too long, the main characters' idiosyncrasies get overpronounced, and because the writers have run out of material, or at least it seems like the writers have run out of material, so they just play on they lean too much into the idiosyncrasies of the main characters. That was like a big problem with the later seasons of Friends, and as well as that '70s show. And I felt like they were leaning too much into the idiosyncrasies of Eric. Somehow continuing to lean into the idiosyncrasies of Fez wasn't too bad, but it was a good show. I'd recommend it. It's worth the time investment if you like that '70s show.
I don't remember I don't think I ever watched every episode of that '70s show, but I did watch a lot of them. Like I certainly knew for the most part the story arcs, but it was not something I went back and rewatched ever either.
Oh, I did. I did several times.
And so it's probably like I will watch that '90s show at some point, just because I enjoyed what I watched of that '70s show, but it was not one of my religious go-tos, I guess, for lack of better phrasing.
Yeah, the good part about that show is they backed off on leaning in. So the main characters, or the characters that persist in every episode from that '70s show, are Red and Kitty. And they backed off on how much they leaned into their idiosyncrasies from the later episodes. So it's not the best version of Red and Kitty, but it's certainly a lot better than the last couple of seasons of that '70s show.
At least sounds entertaining enough to be worth it.
Yeah, and since Danny Masterson was canceled, he was not at all in that show. But all of the other cast members made at least one appearance. So
it's a nice touch, I suppose.
Yeah, it's really cool because if you think about it, like all of with the exception of Kurtwood Smith and Deborah Jo Rupp, Red and Kitty's actors portraying Red and Kitty, all of the other main actors, they got their start there, or it was their breakout role rather.
Yeah, I guess so.
Even Tommy Chong shows up. I love Tommy Chong, and he looks exactly the same. Like he's which you would expect. He's still in the '90s. That guy is still wearing his clothes from the '70s.
Yeah, it'll definitely be one that I watch before too long.
All right, so we got to go back to vampires.
All right.
So I know that I have a few vampire movies that I'm missing. That I as somebody who enjoys vampire movies, I should have watched by now. For example, I have not seen The Last Boy Scout. Because that's a vampire movie, right?
The Last Boy Scout.
Bruce Willis. Or no. Who's in The Last Boy? No, 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 no. What am I thinking? No, there's a movie. It's got.
The Last Boy Scout was Bruce Willis, but it was not a vampire movie.
Okay, I did start that movie and I didn't finish it for whatever reason. But okay, that's not the one I'm thinking of. It's the one that has Kiefer Sutherland.
The Lost Boys.
The Lost Boys. Thank you. So that's an example of a vampire movie that is sort of what is the word I'm looking for?
It's a cult classic at this point.
Definitely. What I was gonna say, it's quintessential or a part of the it's part of the modern lore of vampires.
Okay, yeah, I see where you're going with it. Yeah. I would make that case.
Yeah, and I haven't seen that one, but I watched a number of other ones, and honestly, one of my favorites is Blade.
Have you watched all of those?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I enjoyed Blade. I actually liked Blade Trinity better than most people.
Oh, Ryan Reynolds was awesome.
I don't know if it's so much that or if it was a combination of not having to lean so heavily into Wesley Snipes at that point. Because I like Wesley Snipes, but it was at that point in his career that he was not the Wesley Snipes that entertained me as much. You know, the way he portrayed himself on screen and everything. And so in that movie, he felt very bland. Whereas Ryan Reynolds obviously brought life to the film. And then Jessica Biel, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I just enjoyed her character in general.
You know, I'm not such a big Jessica Biel fan. Nothing against her, just she's not a draw for me.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has their preferences for sure. For me, I think it's just I liked the way she portrayed that character. Like it's very reminiscent of Angelina Jolie portraying a number of characters. She just had that presence in the film.
Maybe I'll go back and rewatch it with that in mind because I never thought about it that way.
That is something that gets me every time. Anytime you have a very capable female character that is an integral part of the film, and if you think about like Angelina Jolie, obviously has made a name for herself with plenty of movies, but Kate Beckinsale in Underworld is another good example.
Yeah, no, I loved her in Underworld.
That is just that capable character. I enjoy that being a female lead or supporting actor.
Yeah, I was going to say most recently, I think Paloma from No Time to Die has been. She's not even she's a supporting character, but absolutely loved that character from that movie.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, and we've talked about this at length on a previous show, but all
right. So Lost Boys.
Yeah, so Lost Boys isn't one I've seen. Interview with the Vampire. I think that was lost on me. I don't know if I just watched it at the wrong time or just didn't get it. I don't know.
That one, I didn't like the movie the first time I watched it at all. And I think I had very different expectations based on having read the novel. It wasn't until some time had passed and I watched it again later that I appreciated the film.
Okay.
So I don't know how much of that was just I watched it at the wrong time as well, or that it was just too close to reading the book, or some combination of both.
Maybe different expectations.
Yeah. And when I rewatched it just as its own standalone thing, not as an adaptation in the book, which was difficult to do, but not impossible, as opposed to some other films that will go unnamed.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. The one that doesn't exist.
Yes.
It's a B movie, but it is one of my favorite I know I've talked to you about it. I don't think that I've talked about it on the show, but I love the premise from Dracula 2000.
Now I have to think. Dracula 2000 was...
So...
that might be one I missed.
Yeah, so I think it's probably not easy to find because it's not it's a B movie. It's not a great movie, but it at the time I didn't know most of the actors in the movie. The actors I recognized were Christopher Plummer, who played. He just had a very short. It's not a cameo because he got credited for it, but he played a short. His role or his part wasn't very long, and he was Van Helsing, and Danny Masterson was in it. Because Dracula 2000 came out in 2000, so 23 years ago. Gerard Butler was Dracula.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing that one. That one somehow eluded my... I mean, you've seen my movie collection. I have plenty of B and C movies.
Oh, yeah.
That one just completely missed my radar, though. I will have to find that one.
If you... it's good enough. The name fits it. Like, Dracula 2000 is just not a, like... You know, you hear that name and it's like, okay, this is definitely a B movie. But it's, you know, it's got good actors. The other person I recognized from it. So I didn't recognize Gerard Butler. I didn't know who he was at the time, but I did recognize Jennifer Esposito because she was in Spin City, and I recognized Jerry Ryan. Nathan Fillion is in it, but I didn't recognize him at the time. So, you know, there's...
I mean, the cast alone would make me seek that one out. So
yeah. And so that being the case, I don't want to... I don't want to ruin this. I don't want to spoil it because it's they took Dracula to a clever level. You know, you always, you know, especially if you like, Bram Stoker's Dracula with the all-star cast from the early '90s. I watched that and I like that. And you know, they always take Dracula to Vlad the Impaler, and I'll just say this is my semi-spoiler, and that is that they go further back than Vlad the Impaler for the origin story of Dracula. And most of the movie takes place in New Orleans, so very interesting conceptually. I think it doesn't get enough credit for how good it is.
So I didn't realize this was a Wes Craven film.
Oh shit, I didn't realize that either.
And there are apparently that's a trilogy, or the Wes Craven collection of Dracula 2000, Dracula 2, and Dracula 3.
No way.
Yeah. I am...
Did he produce it? Because like I'm looking at IMDb and it shows a different Patrick Lussier, as I've never heard of him, he's a director, and he's got a writing credit along with some Joel Soyson that I've never heard of either.
It doesn't say. I'm just looking. I just did a search on Amazon for Dracula 2000 and saw this 3-disc or 3-movie collection. It's the Wes Craven collection.
Maybe he was a producer.
Looks like it can only be ordered on DVD, but that's okay.
Yeah, it would surprise me if they'd put it on Blu-ray. Again,
there's Blu-ray.
Oh, cool.
But that's not all 3. That's only Dracula 2000 and Dracula 2.
I might get Dracula 2000 because it's quite good. Omar Epps. Where have I seen him? I don't know. You can stream it on Stars.
Omar Epps. They should have a credit for FBI, I think, the TV show.
Yeah, I'm trying to think where I've seen him. And who's Johnny Lee Miller? Where have I seen him? Because like I recognize him now. 23 years ago, I did not recognize him. But I'm trying to think, where have I seen him? Eon Flux, Mindhunter. Oh, Mindhunter? No, not that. That's the wrong Mindhunters. Yeah, so there's a bunch of people who are in that movie. Oh, Dexter. I recognize him from 5th season of Dexter. And Omar Epps, I know that I know him from something else as well. So, yeah. If you at all like the Dracula vampire genre, Dracula 2000 is definitely it's one to seek out.
Yeah, I just placed the order for the triple feature at least.
Nice.
I mean, at this point, like, I don't mind. I have a number of things that are still original DVD rips, so that's not a big deal. I'll just do a straight copy and not compress it.
Yeah. I watched that other movie.
That narrows it
I
down
mean,
a lot.
I mentioned Swordfish. I watched it last night.
So thinking about the vampire genre, did you ever watch Dracula Untold?
No.
Okay. I thought they did a pretty good job with it. I have that one, so that you can, at your leisure.
I'll check it out.
It's going to be a very, very odd or controversial, to an extent, mention, but pivoting to TV shows in the genre, The Vampire Diaries. Did you ever watch that one?
I did not watch that one either.
It was entertaining enough in the vein of thinking about like a Dawson's Creek or the like those types of shows that are obviously geared toward young adults, but it had enough to keep it interesting that I at least watched it. And then True Blood I watched for a little bit. I never finished it, and that's one that I'll eventually go back and finish probably, but it started to kind of be odd, and so I just kind of stopped for a little bit.
Yeah, I remember that had a lot of popularity, but I did not. I think I've watched like an episode or two, but they were out of whatever I watched. It was out of context. The 5th season of American Horror Story is the vampire season, and it's good. But it doesn't really. You just have vampires. It doesn't really go into the lore of vampires. They did something entirely different with the story there. It's excellent. It's the first season that Jessica Lange. Oh my God, Jessica Lange. Yeah, Jessica Lange wasn't the star of, and they replaced her with Lady Gaga, and she was absolutely fantastic.
We could actually go down a rabbit hole that this topic spurs, but the only other thing that I'll mention, we don't have to necessarily chase this thread. We can come back to it. I know I mentioned it in the vein of having kind of a weakness for vampire stories in general. It's a little bit broader than that, though. Like, there are a lot of other mythical, legendary subjects that are really fascinating, that I enjoy those stories, even if they're fairly horrible stories a lot of times. And funnily enough, there's a number of films that, like, if you look through my collection with that in mind, you'll start to see that trend peppered throughout, and you'll be able to pick out which ones are a result of that fascination. And we'll put that as a placeholder, that maybe we'll make that an entire show. I don't want to necessarily derail the thought topics that were actually mentioned for this evening either, before we even get that far. Was there anything else about vampires that we needed to go into? Or
I was going to ask you what your like. I know that you like Underworld. I like Underworld. I think when I was watching the third one, though, I was like, I don't think this is going to take place in modern times. The Rise of the Lycans. I remember going to see that in the theater, and halfway through, and I was like, I bet this is going to stay in like middle of the Common era for the whole movie. I was right.
And I actually enjoyed that one more than the second one, I think.
Oh, I think that one's actually my favorite. I haven't watched the 4th or 5th one.
Yeah, I was trying to remember in my head which ones were which, because it was not too long ago that I finally watched those.
The second one is, it's. I think it fits the trope of sequels that aren't strong. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't as good as the original. Whereas,
yeah, for sure.
The third one, it was like, oh, this was a good origin story. So it's sort of a prequel.
Yeah, and I just don't remember off the top of my head the last two because I watched them both pretty recently. I could go read the summaries and I could remember which ones which, but I remember them being entertaining, but I wouldn't say they were phenomenal by any means.
Right.
But you were going to ask as a result of
the vampire movies that you really like.
I don't.
If we haven't mentioned them.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about the ones that I would probably go to in general. The very first one that I ever remembered watching was The Lost Boys. That's what got me kind of hooked on the genre. And other than that, I mean, From Dusk Till Dawn, I guess, deserves a mention.
Oh, yes.
It's kind of tough not to go to that one at some point when you're talking about the genre. But thinking more about the quintessential Dracula story, I mean, I don't know how many times I've watched the Bram Stoker Dracula.
I love the music from that movie.
I mean, that it's tough to pick anything from that film that to really critique negatively. I mean, sure you can, but you have to kind of nitpick to do so.
It's probably something with Keanu Reeves. I like Keanu Reeves a lot, but it's I don't know. I don't want to say he didn't fit there, but for some reason it's very easy. It was very easy for me to see him in that movie and remember his role in Babes in Toyland. I don't know why.
I'd probably have to watch Babes in Toyland again to.
Don't. The other thing that I wanted to point out, even though there are no vampires in the first season of American Horror Story, they use music from various horror movies, including Psycho and Bram Stoker's Dracula, and the use of that music in that first season of AHS was, really great. It's like I was watching that season, and I'm recognizing all this music that I was like, I know this music from these other movies, and it's such a nice touch.
I do like when you have those types of little those things where people pay attention, right? They know the audience and everything, and yeah.
That's like I once went to a burlesque show. This was in the before times, and just watching the show, and it's doing a thing, and there was one dancer that came out, and they started doing a dance, and they had a live band, and the band started playing that Tito and Tarantula After Dark song. The song that Selma Hayek dances to from Dusk Till Dawn. I was like, why aren't people, to me, like when that was happening in the middle of a burlesque show, I was like, this is awesome. It was such, somebody thought, hey, we should use this song for this dance. And it made me happy, made me really happy. Such a good reference.
I bet most people just didn't put it together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I feel like, so sometimes I feel like I'm not trying to be uppity or whatever, but like I'll notice something like that and other people don't notice it, and it's like I don't outright say how did you not notice this, because I understand, because I'm sure there's all the things that I don't notice in life, you don't notice what you don't notice. And but one time I had some friends ask me to go see a movie. I can't remember what movie it was. And they described the plot of the movie. I was like, okay, that sounds good. And, it's a fun thing. And then as soon as I saw that it was Steven Soderbergh, I was like, oh, this is going to be a great movie. I know that I'm going to like this, because I recognize the director. And I just felt like snobbish when I said that. I wasn't trying to be a snob or anything. I just I know that I like Soderbergh's work.
I don't think that's necessarily. I mean, I get why you might have that type of feeling about that in general, but I think that that's the kind of thing that, especially if you've ever spent time around indie filmmaking in any way,
Mm-hmm.
you start to recognize different people for that, and how they craft things, and how they there's a certain art to it that you can appreciate from that form. And it's tough to explain if you don't have something that you notice out of entertainment like that. Because, for example, if you're the average person, you watch movies to watch movies. You don't watch them for seeing how the cinematographer does their thing because you recognize who's doing the work, or for the editor, or for the sound mixing, or if once you're exposed to that somewhere, if it's unique enough, or if it's pointed out, or you just happen to know somebody that's invested in that type of thing that will watch a movie for something else, it opens up a whole world of enjoyment in film that does not exist if you just want to watch movies to be entertained. And there's that thing, whatever exactly it is tough to explain and understand. But that's immediately what I go to when you think about Soderbergh. Same reason I can watch, I don't have a good example off the top of my head, but any movie, I can watch it, and it may not be that I will enjoy the movie for the story, but I might enjoy the movie for the way it was put together, or for how the cinematographer used light to emphasize the story, or some other aspect that I pick up on because of my exposure to the principles of creating imagery.
Yeah, so that's very it's when you start taking, so like I go to movies for the entertainment, but then it turns out that I also pay attention to the art. And I think that's what it is. And if you start talking about the art, in front of people who don't watch movies for the art, if you may, for me, for example, I have a, what's the word I'm looking for? Insecurity about being, my focus on the art comes across as snobbish.
I can see that. I mean, when you think about how most people approach entertainment in general, unless you're in a specific social circle of people that appreciate similar things, then typically when you hear somebody talking about the art behind something, it's vernacular that other people don't have, or they don't have a good way to interpret and engage in the same conversation,
or it comes across as like, why are you trying to complicate something that was just supposed to be for fun?
Yeah, there's that too.
Yeah, and it's not that it's not that I or anyone who wants to talk about the art of a movie is trying to complicate it. It's just that I want to go deeper. Like, the surface view is not enough for me, or so. And there's nothing wrong with that. You just need to find the right person to talk to about that. Because when you talk to it about the wrong person, it's just going to be a bad conversation for both people.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I was going to say something else and then realized we've kind of had a long, winding intro, and we actually have a couple of topics to at least jump to.
I felt this was the topic.
I mean, we could certainly make that an episode in and of itself, but the one thing that I wanted to make sure I mentioned that I should have already mentioned, I had a piece of follow-up. I completely attributed the Stanford prison experiments to the wrong name, and I recognized it toward the end of when we were recording, but it was after we had cut the episode, so I figured I would just put it in follow-up. And it was Philip Zimbardo who performed the Stanford prison experiments, and so the correct link was put on the show. It's just I called out the completely wrong name.
We should do a long pause here, and you could take that and put it at the beginning, so it sounds like we did follow up at the beginning.
No, I'm going to leave it there.
Oh, okay.
Because, I mean, realistically, intro, follow up, credits.
Yeah.
No,
Fair enough.
I don't want to cut the show at that point either, but I just want to make sure that's emphasized and it is called out because I did recognize my mistake.
Well, having this conversation about, first we started with talking about vampire movies and then a broader aspect of how movies are viewed, that I think that really lends itself to the topic that I put in the notes.
Yeah, I do too, actually, which is why I didn't want to cut the show either and still at least get into it. Because I have mixed thoughts here. So
I do too.
You want to introduce it for how you were thinking about it, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so I put as the show topic, you wouldn't steal a car, which is if you're a millennial or older, you'll recognize that, or if you're paying attention to the DVDs that you couldn't fast forward through, you'll probably recognize that from, I think maybe Fox put it on their DVDs, 20th Century Fox, but there was just this 30-second cool hip music, cutscene, about how you wouldn't steal a car, so you shouldn't steal movies. It was anti-piracy sort of thing. And until I saw this article, I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't thought about that video, that clip, or that I don't know. Is it a PSA?
I'd call it a marketing campaign, to be honest.
Yeah, but that's perfect. A marketing campaign from the industry to not, pirate their art. And they do have a good point, but I don't really. I don't have the warm and fuzzies from that. So maybe maybe I'd feel better about it if I could fast forward through it.
Yes. The issue for me is that it's making an equivalency that isn't completely the way or the reason for the behavior.
Right.
It's not about trying to subvert the industry. It was about trying to kind of a combination of things. It was anti-user as far as the experience is concerned. I mean, if you can't press the menu button to get to the menu and have to let the pre-roll introduction play, and then you have to let the warnings and the copyright info and all this other stuff, you're locked out of fast forwarding or starting the movie that you have in your hand, that's anti-consumer. It's not friendly to the end user. So there's an aspect of that, but there's also an aspect of how many times do you want me to pay $20, $30 to see this movie? It's one thing to have the film out and you make your choice. Do you want to go see it in the theater? Do you want to buy it? Is it something that you want to have a copy of? That's easy enough to wrap your head around and make those kind of decisions. But then when you do a special edition with 2 minutes of additional footage or 5 minutes, that especially in the 90s, many films that were notorious for an extended cut and then a director's cut and everything else. And it's you want me to buy the same film over and over and over and over because you want more money for it. And I don't want it that much. I just want to know what the missed scenes were.
Yeah, it's trying to capitalize on all the benefits of consumerism for the seller, and while maintaining an anti-consumer approach to that. And so, yeah, it feels like a semi adversarial relationship. Actually, yeah, and then when you put out "You Wouldn't Steal a Car" kind of marketing video, then yeah, it is now, it is adversarial. You're pointing out that, hey, we are your adversary. So, that doesn't feel great either. When I was listening to, I think it was episode 1 125. Yeah, I think it was 125. I talked about VHS, and I think I failed to mention that when we went from VHS to DVD, depending on which DVD we're talking about, there was a step back where, I think every DVD, I can't think of a DVD that you didn't have to watch the warnings, the FBI warning. Whereas, if there are trailers, you could, on a VHS, you can fast forward through the warning, you can fast forward through the trailers, you can fast forward straight to the beginning of the movie. But you always have to fast forward. With DVDs, it was kind of a grab bag. And I don't really remember about Blu-rays because I didn't watch a lot of Blu-rays on Blu-ray players. But you could, depending on the DVD, you might have something, you might have a menu system that was created such that you saw the warning and it automatically started playing the video that you didn't even have to. It was like, warning, movie has started. Whereas there were some on the other end of the spectrum where it was like, here are the warnings, and here are the trailers and the ads, and you can't even fast forward through them, and you can't push I guess you could fast forward through them, but you couldn't push the menu button to skip them. And it's like, with VHS, okay, I can fast forward. With DVD, I can also fast forward, so I didn't lose functionality, but there is no menu, there is no menu button for the movie that you're watching on a VHS. There's just a menu button for the VCR. And so on a DVD, where you do get a menu button where you can skip to the thing that you want, if that feature was taken away from you based on how the DVD was put together, that felt bad. Like, I didn't like that. It was an anti-consumer move.
Yeah, and some took it even more extreme. There were many where you had to watch a intro animation to get to the menu.
Oh God, yeah. I forgot about that.
And so you could easily put a disc in and wait for it to start playing and have a 5-minute window before you could actually start a movie.
So I remember thinking about, okay, so I own this movie, and if I rip this movie to a hard drive, is that illegal or not illegal? I don't know. I think it's a gray area.
At this point in time, it is not illegal as long as you own the movie. The reason this has been a difficult area to nail down is that it's changed over our lifetimes.
Okay.
The original non-amended copyright laws basically rendered that illegal. And then there was a change that was like a temporary adjustment. I don't remember what the length of time was, but it was some length of time where it was like, we're going to put this in place and then we're going to revisit it in a few years. And what that did was allowed, if you owned a physical copy of a media, so this would be CDs, DVDs, etc., you could create a digital copy of it for backup and preservation, for your personal use. The idea of being backup, but right, realistically, it's
for use. It's the copy that you're going to use,
right? And then I believe that change was made permanent, or it was just renewed. I don't remember which. That's where it gets fuzzy because I quit paying attention. Because realistically, at the end of the day, I don't care. I'm going to rip the damn thing, and I'm going to watch the ripped copy, and I'm going to leave the physical copy on a shelf.
Yeah, the physical copy is my backup. The soft copy is the one that I use for convenience. It's like I have my own streaming service. That's where I started because I just got to where it's like, one, it's the convenience of being able to go into Plex and say I want to watch, choose a movie, and as soon as you've chosen the movie, it's playing for you. You don't have any of the bullshit. So, yeah, that's how I preferred to watch movies, and I've been doing that for at least a dozen years.
Yeah, and famously, I put together a chain of dongles to escape having to put a disc in a headrest DVD player for my son because of how annoying menus are.
Yeah. So I feel like Apple has been the most consumer friendly in this place because if you buy like 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 the best feature and most consumer friendly because if you buy a movie from the iTunes, is it still called the iTunes Store? I assume that it is.
It still technically exists as the iTunes Store via the app that the one named iTunes. I think officially they're wanting you to do it via
Apple TV.
Apple TV.
Okay. Regardless, if you have a code that came with your disc, you can, there's the Play Anywhere, and you can somehow get that code to show up. Like, okay, this is a movie that I own through the Apple TV or iTunes Store or whatever. Regardless, if you get your movie through Apple, they have. I don't know that they've ever said this is a feature, or what, but they have historically upgraded your copy of the movie. Like if you have something that came out and the resolution was 1080p, and then it became available in 4K, and they have the 4K version in the library, and then they have the 4K HDR version. They have just given you access to the higher quality version, which is a feature that you can't get with Blu-ray. And I thought that was like, it's a reason for me. It has been a reason for me to consider not buying a physical copy, or at least.
I do think there are two categories there. I think it's if you buy it originally from Apple, historically that's happened. I think it's hit or miss if it's a redemption with a physical copy.
Gotcha.
Because I know a couple of movies I've had that I've redeemed the codes for. The version that plays is one version that's available, but another version exists that's newer. Now, I haven't investigated close enough to know if it's just two different, labels for the same film, a lot like you would have different cuts or something. So I don't know if maybe it's same quality movie, but it's a different combination of extras or something like that bundled with it, that kind of thing. And I don't really care, really. I don't watch that many of my movies via iTunes anymore anyway.
Right. I was kind of wondering what movies I have. Like, most of the movies that I have, it's not all of them, but a lot of the movies that I've redeemed I have access to the 4K version.
And it may also be different just because of my use case is ever so slightly different. I'm not sure why, but I tend to buy my TV shows via Apple now instead of the discs, but I still tend to buy movies on disc. And I think part of it's just because, I see a good price on a TV series bundle, and it's like, well, sure, I'll go ahead and snag it kind of thing. I think that's part of why. Whereas movies, I tend to just wait for them to drop anyway before I buy them, unless it's one that I really want to go grab.
Yeah, I said a lot, but I did the math, and it's 29% of the movies that I've redeemed through Apple TV that are available to me in 4K.
I mean, it's still, depending on the number, that's still a lot.
It's 24 movies.
Okay.
But, I don't have a 4K TV, so it doesn't matter. Not yet. So, go ahead.
Just going back to the topic, one other thing that I was going to mention, because I said I had mixed feelings on it. The part that I have mixed feelings about comes to like paying the production staff.
Yes,
because that is legitimately to me a issue with widespread pirating of any entertainment medium. But I have a tough time pointing to that when the studios are taking such a large percentage of the profits.
It feels like they're stealing.
Yeah. So it's I think the studios, I think the distribution of funds from sales is not what it needs to be. But I don't, I don't work in the industry. I don't have good numbers on the percentages and what cost what. I'm not going to say that it's definitely skewed in the wrong direction. I just know from outside it feels like it is.
Well, if you were setting a timer for this, this is a microcosm of America. Every episode. Yeah, just the sense that, like, it's not even like, hey, you know, all the profits should be, you know, nobody's asking for all the profits to be shared equally. You know, I do understand the monetary risk of creating a movie, but, you know, that's neither here nor there, in the sense that it would be better if there was, just like every aspect of every industry and in our culture, it would be better if there would, you know, there's a lack of balance between the haves and the have-nots. And
yeah,
so
a more equitable distribution
Yes.
of resources.
yes.
And
Yes.
note more equitable, not equal, not
No,
you know,
yeah. More
just
equitable.
something that's more in line with reasonable amounts across the board.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to say about this was, like, you know, the whole idea of you wouldn't steal a car is that it is not, you know, equating this with stealing a car is, I think, is a bit of a farce. You know, because it's, you know, it's not a physical thing. Whereas, you know, like if there's one car and I take it, then that car is not available to the owner. Whereas if I copy a movie, I haven't taken anything from somebody else. I've just made a copy for myself. And this is by no means a justification for doing that, because it is wrong. But a lot of times people will copy movies that they wouldn't otherwise buy. So it doesn't really feel like stealing.
Yeah, it's a false equivalency for sure. Because the other part of it to think about there is, a lot of times someone would get the movie because they have no interest in it in general, and then watch it and then say, "Oh, I actually really enjoyed that. I'm going to go get a copy."
Yeah,
I know plenty
that's
of
me.
people who have done that too.
I've done that many, many times.
And there are a lot of movies that I did that for. A lot of music I did that for, where it's like, I'm curious because I hear people talk about it. I haven't heard it. Let's go see what it's about. You know?
Yeah, yeah. The other thing, and maybe the other thing I had a thought about was that there was a use case that I had for copying movies that were not my own, and that was wanting to get through as many movies as possible. So in my late teens and early 20s, I had a lot of time to make up for, because I wasn't allowed to watch a lot of movies. And, you know, just from my conservative upbringing. And I don't feel bad for that. You know, it's kind of that's how I was reared. And I started seeing more movies when I would spend the night over at a friend's house. And then I turned 18 and I had access to any movie that I wanted because I could go rent them. And I'm pretty confident that I've mentioned this on the show. I know I've talked about it to you, but, you know, I'd go, you know, I'm watching all these movies that I hadn't seen, so I wasn't looking for new releases, and I would do the deals at the mom and pop video stores where I get 5 movies for 5 days for $5. And I'd often finish the movies in less than 5 days. And one time I asked, it's like, hey, can I swap out the movies in that 5-day period? Like, have, you know, kind of like trying to treat it like a library. It's like, here are the, you know, it's been 2 days. Here are the first 5 movies back. Can I get 5 more movies and have them returned to you in that initial 5-day period? And they're like, nope. But still, $5 for that is not that big a deal. Or, you know, it wasn't that much. But when Netflix rolled around, there was one option of getting 3 DVDs out in a month for $20. And I would get the first 3 DVDs, rip them all in one day to a hard drive, and then send them all back the next day. And in the transit time from sending them and receiving, I'd watch those movies. I'd watch those same movies. And so for me, that was a use case where I ripped movies, and then I didn't have the hard drive space to keep them, so I'd delete them. And I ended up buying movies that I bought the actual versions of, I bought the movies that I actually really wanted to have.
And something to remember, just for those who might listen and not remember it, you could expect transit time to be anywhere from a week to 10 days before you received your next discs in the mail.
Yeah.
It was not at all quick or expedient. And so, I did the same thing. I would go ahead and get the movies. I'd rip them so that I could get them in the mail because I knew it was going to be a week before I got more. And that way, over the course of the week, I would watch them. If I liked it, there was a chance I would go buy it. There were quite a few movies that I never would have purchased that I watched that way. Now I couldn't tell you which ones at this point anymore, but all of the ones all the rips that I kept, I eventually re-ripped from my discs, just because what I had available at the time was very similar. I didn't have the hard drive space to keep things around, so rips were typically fairly low quality in comparison. And so when I did finally have the hard drive space, I wanted to have good copies anyway. So I would just over time purge everything that I had ripped that it came in that wasn't something that I physically had a copy of in my hand to re-rip from, and re-ripped my entire library. I don't remember when that was, but it would have been probably a little over a decade ago that I went through that exercise. And that was predominantly just trying to make sure that what I had matched. Because I found over time that there were a number of things that I had issues with, where either it was an early rip that I did and I didn't compress it the way I learned to do and wanted to clean it up, or I chose the wrong subtitle track, and maybe I had a couple of pieces where it should have something on the screen that didn't, and just trying to fix all those little things. So
the modern version of this is password sharing. So we're 20. So the statistic that was presented, this came from Charter, and they showed that in 2021, Netflix lost $9.1 billion to password sharing, and I feel like that's the same equivalency as you wouldn't steal a car. It's like the people who shared the password is like, you can't say that you lost $9.1 billion, because how many of those people would otherwise just not have Netflix?
Yeah. And how many people did they lose because they decided to do price hikes too? So, I assume that they've controlled for that somehow, but I know, me personally, the moment they raised it above, I think it was $8.99 that I was paying a month, I just canceled.
Yeah.
And Netflix is not a value add for me above $8.99 a month.
Yeah, there's some shows that I want to watch on there, but and through password sharing, I have access to more services than I would otherwise get on my own. So, all right, I actually don't remember what Netflix is right now. I'm willing to pay for it, but I kind of wish I'd watched this video, but I saw Renee Ritchie had put out a video, should Apple buy Netflix, and I kind of wish they would, but then they're gonna, if they did, they'd raise the price of Apple one, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's funny. I like where Apple TV Plus is now.
Actually,
because it reminds me. I know we've both heard this comparison plenty of times, and I think Gruber was the first person I ever heard to mention it.
It's Gruber that has said this multiple times.
Yeah, it feels like the old HBO, where that's not a huge catalog, but whatever you choose to watch is going to be excellent production quality and very well done from a storytelling perspective. It may not be the kind of thing you want to see, right? HBO did plenty of that too. It had different types of shows for different types of people, but you couldn't fault the writing or the production quality or the acting or, the basics of what make each show or production a production.
Yeah. It feels like HBO's kind of like HBO Max has turned into like, here's your back catalog. And actually, I really like it. They have a great back catalog. But there's all these ancillary services that I just feel like are, we got to jump in and we got to capitalize on this. Like, I feel like Paramount is the one that has been the worst because like their app is terrible. But
so here's my current general package of streaming providers, I guess. So Apple TV Plus is no surprise because I use enough Apple services that's part of the bundle.
Yeah, same.
Disney Plus, because Disney owns all of my favorite
franchises
at this point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a given. I like those two. At the moment, I have HBO Max, and that's because of House of the Dragon, predominantly. But I do like HBO, but HBO is one of those that I'll run it for a while, and then I'll cancel and use another service, or just not have it until I run it again. It's not one that I maintain constantly. But generally, when I do subscribe, I subscribe for the yearly price. So I do kind of years at a time for those three. Whereas realistically, the first two are a given, but those three are all on a yearly subscription. I haven't subscribed. I mentioned I haven't subscribed to Netflix since they raised the prices. I don't remember how long that's been, but it predates the sale of the Marvel TV shows to Disney.
Gotcha. Oh, wow.
It's
been a while.
Yeah. The only other one I currently have is Peacock, and that one's hit or miss for me. That's one that I'll subscribe monthly, and I will randomly cancel it for a few months at a time, and then pick it back up. And sometimes that has to do with Premier League games, and sometimes it has to do with shows that I want to watch. I tend to have that one more often than not having it, but that one is the first on my chopping block from the streaming services.
Do you subscribe through Apple so that you can easily unsubscribe?
Oh, absolutely.
Yep, me too.
They ever drop that, and I'm done.
Yeah.
I just, no. If I can't do it through there, I don't want to manage the subscription at all. I have never once subscribed to Paramount, and never will. Even though they have shows that I want to see, I refuse. At this point, I'm done.
It's too much. There's the market, it's oversaturated.
And I assume there are other providers out there as well, but I have enough content. There may be other things that I want to see, but I'll wait for those to be available to purchase via iTunes.
I haven't really leveraged renting that much, but yeah, I think the movie studios jumping in, and even the TV studios jumping in and doing their own. While I like Peacock, it just they kind of like poison the well because they pulled their content from the existing streaming service, and I get why it's the right business decision, but it's not, the consumer did not benefit from that for sure.
Well, I mean, I don't even know that it's the right business decision anymore, because think about Warner Brothers, right? Just overall, the Warner Brothers owns Peacock.
Do they?
Yeah, I think. Don't they?
I thought it was Viacom.
Or does Warner own HBO?
I think they own HBO because all of their stuff is on HBO. At least much of their stuff is on HBO.
Okay, so that may be what I was thinking of. But either way,
regardless,
Warner Brothers has a large footprint, and it's difficult to pin down where some of their stuff is.
Right.
Now, some of that might be changing with the introduction of a lot of the back catalog into the HBO Max app, and maybe that's all in transition and it'll be there. but right now it feels incomplete. I'll just put it that way. I don't know where Fox's content is.
It's on Disney now.
Is it all Disney?
I mean, a lot of it's on Disney.
Because part of it is I haven't scrolled through Disney Plus other than for originals.
Oh, no,
so
it's tons of Fox is on Disney now. Like if you want to go watch Home Alone, it's on Disney.
I think I remember seeing that.
Yeah,
but like, is the TV show catalog there though?
I wouldn't expect so.
And you know, part of it also could be that a lot of this is missing, because there was a point where you could watch a lot of these things pseudo on demand via what the cable providers have worked out with the different networks via the on demand channels, that kind of thing. And so part of it is it feeling like some of that has been lost in this transition to the acquisitions and merging and implementation of all the different streaming services. And part of me does wonder if we're just not at a transitory phase. But like right now, I'm actually, if it weren't for Disney Plus obviously having stuff that's not available otherwise, a lot of it feels like you'd be better served going back to the traditional cable model.
Yeah. Except for cable's garbage because you have to watch ads and so forth.
Yeah, but you have to watch ads on some of the streaming services too, depending on what packages you get. I mean, Peacock obviously is one that annoys me with ads.
Oh, I paid the extra $1 or whatever for it. Like I can't. Yeah. So maybe eventually the market will sort itself out. Maybe not. Who knows?
I really wish the what did Apple call it when they introduced the channels? The promise of like a la carte, choosing which pieces, that it's there to an extent, but it never really materialized. And I really wish someone would finally fix that gap. Like, I don't care if they become an intermediary that it sells a subscription that's just a bundle of all the other subscriptions. You know, it's...
Yeah.
At this point, it's just so fractured. It's annoying.
Yeah. I think all of those industries are now afraid, not just of Apple, but just of what Apple did to the music industry happening to them. So,
I have no doubt that that's why the aggregation into Apple TV didn't happen. In the way, like the integrations are there if you pay for the individual services with most of the apps. There are still some providers that don't integrate well or at all. But the pick and choose and subscribe to a specific channel kind of thing, all through the Apple interface, that's the part that feels like it was promised and it was shown and it sort of kind of exists, but it's incomplete and it's not being pushed any further. And that's a huge missed opportunity. But I think the reason it didn't happen is because of that.
It's not
concern.
for lack of trying.
Yeah.
For me, the funniest one was CNN Plus. Like the idea that someone thought that there was a market for more CNN, and the fact that it lasted for like 24 hours or something, like less than a week.
I thought it broke the week mark.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I thought I didn't look that close. I didn't pay attention, but I thought it did go for longer than a week.
Real-time follow-up.
Yeah, because I was thinking it was less than a month, but more than a week.
Oh, wow. It made it almost a month.
Okay. So my memory was more accurate, at least.
Fewer than 10,000 people using it on a daily basis. Founded on March 29th, 2022. I don't know what founded means because that sounds different than launched. But dissolved on April 28th, 2022. So a month minus a day.
Actually, lasted longer than I thought.
30 days because March is a 31-day month.
Yeah, actually lasted a little longer than I thought, but I was still technically accurate.
It felt like a day. We have a number of different ways set up for you to get in touch with us to provide feedback, ask questions, or just comment in about something we've discussed.
You can hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at untitled_hosts, or shoot an email over to untitled.hosts@gmail.com.
Or get in touch directly with Jesse at jthart.com, or get in touch with me, John, via telepathy.
If you would like to support our work or are interested in listening to our new after show feed, head over to patreon.com/theUntitledPodcast and take a look at the options we have set up.
Thank you for listening.
We hope you've enjoyed the show.
And we hope to connect with more of you as we continue this journey.
That's a wrap.